we thought it would be appropriate also, along with that, having experience in the masjid environment and with the deen and having suhbah of mashayikh and ulama, to tie them together, we felt he would be the most appropriate host for this topic.
All right. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So I'm sure a lot of you that are sitting here that work in corporate America, and I'm not the only one. I mean, I'm sure there's most of you run into this challenge. So Mufti Sahab, I want to start with the most common thing that we run into, right? It's about at the workplace. I mean, workplace is mixed. It's gender mixed, right? So it's not like you can avoid. So it is a very common thing within the environment, regardless of wherever you work. So how can, as a Muslim, employee, can be very comfortable engaging in the interaction during the meetings, team building activities, and social events while staying true to their beliefs, right? While maintaining your identity and your values and not sacrificing. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on and how we can carry this.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulillah. So that's a very important question that a lot of us face. Just to take a step back, inshallah, that when it comes to earning itself and working in general, that this is a command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there are different issues that are going to be discussed today, but one underlying theme in all of them is that we have to understand that we are an abd and slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah is our master, and that this life is a test. So there are going to be different challenges, but we have to remain strong. We have to remain steadfast. It is through knowledge that we can understand and we can learn that how to approach different scenarios. Is it something that we can compromise on or not? What issues are non-negotiable? Which issues are negotiable? And how to have the hikmah and wisdom of approaching the given situation. We can make mashara with our elders, with mashayikh, with those who are experienced in the field, in the respective field. But first of all, the first hadith, Sahih Bukhari, and first hadith of many books is innamal a'malu bin niyat, when the actions are based upon intentions. So what is our intention when we're working? We have to make the niyyah daily whenever we go to work that this is an obligation. This is a commandment of Allah, this is a commandment of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That kasbul halali faridatun ba'd al-fara'id. Earning a livelihood is an obligation, it's farad, after the remaining fara'id. So it is a form of ibadah. And the men who are here listening, their sisters also listening, perhaps on site as well as online, this is a primary responsibility Allah has put upon the men. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that الرِّجَالُ قَوَامُونَ عَلَى النِّسَاءِ. Allah ta'ala has given the responsibility of men to be the caretakers of the family. بِمَا فَضَّلَ اللَّهُ بَعْضَهُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ. This is a responsibility Allah has given them. And وَبِمَا أَنفَقُوا مِنْ أَمْوَالِهِمْ, because they are spending from their wealth. So it is the responsibility of the father to provide for his children. It is the responsibility of the husband to provide for the wife. When they're together as a family, even in na'udhu billah, in the case of divorce, still the father is responsible for the financial upbringing of the children, financial expenditure of the children, even if the mother has the custody. Not because I'm talking about the Western courts, I'm talking about Islamic law. So this is an obligation. So we should make the niyyah. And if we don't, then there's a huge potential loss of thawab. 40 hours a week, like typical, for example, 40 hours of ibadah is gone. It could have been 40 hours of thawab. We barely made one night of ibadah, and we are doing 40 hours a week. But is it ibadah or not? And then the ibadah is of two types, primary form of ibadah and secondary form of ibadah. And the primary forms of ibadah is dhikr and dua and tilawah, salah. But this is a secondary form of ibadah. So let us make the correct intention. But majority of the ummah by default is failing in this. And the default is to fail. And how can we make such a claim? It's because of the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The standard, he said, is "At-tujaru yuhsharuna yawm al-qiyamati fusaqan." Sorry to say this, I don't want to be attacking any particular group, but tujar, like businessmen. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the starting point is all the businessmen, yuhsharuna yawm al-qiyamah, on the day of judgment, will be fujjar, will be sinners. Then the exception, the few, illa man ittaqa wa sadaqa wa barra, except for those who fear Allah, speak the truth and do good. So there are few. So fearing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, having the sense of accountability, and with all the issues that Brother Mujahid is mentioning, starting with the gender interaction, which was, I'm not going to forget about the actual question, but it all boils down to remaining firm on the deen, remaining firm on the fact that Allah is the raziq, the rizq comes from Allah. This is like a suluk type of whole question about tawakkul and ikhtiyar of asbab. Are we supposed to just make tawakkul and say that Allah will provide and not make any effort? Or are we supposed to make effort? So since we're talking about Allah is the raziq, yes, Allah is the raziq, but He has commanded us to adopt the means. And the one hadith that people misunderstand many times is that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, لو أنكم توكلتم على الله حق توكله. If you would have tawakkul on Allah, the way it is the right of Allah that you have tawakkul in. What is tawakkul again? Trust. If you trusted in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the way you're supposed to trust in Him, لَرَزَقَكُمْ كَمَا يَرْزُقُ الطَّيْرِ, then He would provide risk for you the way He provides for the birds. The hadith ends here, or not? No, it does not end here. Then Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, تَغْدُو خِمَاصًا وَتَرُوحُ بِطَانًا, that they leave in the morning with empty bellies and they come home to their nest with full bellies. Yesterday, those of you who are here, I talked about the scenario where I was sitting in a crowd and one of the speakers was saying that reject your math, go with the Quran, right? And then how that was an incorrect understanding. Does anyone remember or forgot? Okay, so this hadith as well, many times I've heard this hadith, and then after that I heard a quotation that, look, if you have true tawakkul, Allah will provide you like the birds. Does a bird have a degree? Does a bird have a bachelor's or a master's? Does a bird have, get wages, works? Which corporation does it work for? So you're supposed to have tawakkul like the bird, and Allah will provide you like the bird. But did you notice what the Rasulullah ﷺ said in a hadith? He said that if you have tawakkul, Allah will provide you like the bird. Thereafter, Rasulullah ﷺ said, تَغْدُو خِمَاسًا, it will leave its home empty. Why is it leaving its nest? Taruhu, and it comes back to its nest. So the leaving the nest, the taghdu is to leave in the morning, and taruhu is to return in the evening. It leaves this nest in the morning and comes back in the evening. What is it doing? Searching for food, making effort. 9 to 5. So why? That's not an unnecessary detail. That's not just incidental, coincidental. There's a specific reason why Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam mentioned that. So you have to make the effort. Even the hadith on tawakkul is talking about making effort. Even the ayat of the Quran that talks about, okay, you'll say, what is the most extreme form of risk coming right to you directly? The extreme form of that is a divine miracle, mu'ajiza. Yes or no? Not even in karamatul awliya, mu'ajizatul anbiya, the highest level. It's a supernatural feat of a Nabi of Allah. Effort is required there too. Like Ayyub alayhi salam is when he's sick, Allah Ta'ala could have just said, okay, instantly you're cured after the 7 years of his sabr. What did Allah Ta'ala say? He wanted to see the effort. He said, Urkuz bi rijlik in Surah Sad. Hit your heel onto the ground. هذا مغتسل بارد وشراب. هذا مغتسل, a spring will gush forth that you take ghusl with it and you drink the water. When you take ghusl, all the skin disease will go away. When you drink the water, internal diseases will go away. But the key thing is urkuz, hit your heel. Why you have to hit your heel? Allah wants to see effort even in the miracle. When Maryam alayhi salam had a very painful delivery and she was just delivered Isa alayhi salam, and she's and has a shock on her, and she has the shame with having the baby as well. What happened? وَهُزِّي إِلَيْكِ بِجِذْعِ النَّخْلِ. Right? There is a dry tree, and it is out of season and there's nothing on the branches, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could have given her the fresh fruit in a plate. But Allah ta'ala says, Huzi ilayki bijid'in nakhl. Shake the branch of this dead tree. Tusaqit alayka rutaban janiyan. Fresh rutab dates will descend upon you and you can eat. So that's why we do have to make effort. But the test is, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, okay, if you have tawakkul, you don't go to work, and then the risk comes from the sky straight onto your plate, that actually would have been in a way easier. How is that easier? The reason it's easier is if you have tawakkul, you'll get the food. If you don't have tawakkul, you won't get it. Black and white. Like the Last Supper of the disciples of Isa alayhi salam. Right? That they call it the Last Supper. Anzil alayna ma'idatan min as-sama. They said, O Isa alayhi salam, bring down a table spread from the sky. The test here is that we are supposed to adopt the means, but we are not supposed to have the trust in the means. No. We have to have the trust that Allah is the Raziq. نحن نرزقك. إن الله هو الرزاق ذو القوة المتين. Allah is the Raziq. And so you'll say, okay, the non-Muslim is also working, the Muslim mutawakkil is also working. One believes that Allah is providing risk, the other one believes his job is providing risk. That may be just an internal difference of perspective. Theological approach is different. Practically, there's no difference. Yes, there is a practical difference. What's the practical difference? The practical difference is that in these challenges he's mentioning, the person who believes their job and the position is providing the risk, not Allah, he will sacrifice the order of Allah to keep the job secure. But the one who believes that Allah is the Raziq, he knows that Allah's sifa al-razaqiyah is to provide the risk, is not limited with this job. He's doing the job, he's working hard because that is a command of Allah. But he does not limit the qudra of Allah to this job. So if things do not work out based on the Sharia, then he will have tawakkul on Allah when he will resign. It's a difficult thing to say, but I'm saying that's the difference. Like today is Jum'ah. Now, if there is a person who has a bunch of clients lined up in his store, and the adhan for Jum'ah is going. So from the morning till Jum'ah, the one who believes that his store is providing him risk, he is working. The one who believes Allah is providing him risk, he's working. They're both working. So you don't see the difference. But then when Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu idha nudiya lis-salati min yawm al-jum'ah, or those who believe when the adhan for Jum'ah is called out, فَسَعَوْا إِلَىٰ ذِكْرِ اللَّهِ, hasten to the dhikr of Allah. وَذَرُوا الْبَيْعِ, وَذَرُوا الْبَيْعِ, leave buying and selling. It's a direct command. And this khairun lakum is better for you in kuntum ta'alamun, if you but knew. So the one who believes Allah is the Raziq, he will close the store in the face of all the customers. And so there is a difference. There is a practical difference for the one who believes Allah is the Raziq versus the one who believes the job is the Raziq. The Allah is the Rabb or the job is the Rabb. And then all of the other issues, all the halal and haram issues of working, all of the gender interaction he's talking about, all of these things, it'll become easier for a person. First of all, he will have to do is he develops the yaqeen that Allah is Raziq. That's the first step. Second is that he learns what is halal and haram, what's right and not right, which we are talking about. And then third, he will implement it in his life. And he'll continue to make dua to Allah to give him tawfiq. But it all starts with what? What's the actual starting point? Is developing that yaqeen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that make mashwara, make a plan, make a tadbir. Don't do things haphazardly in life. Tadbir is something we have been commanded to have a plan of action. And even taking opinions, Allah Ta'ala asked Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, even though he was receiving divine revelation, فَعَفُ عَنْهُمْ وَاسْتَغْفِرْ لَهُمْ وَشَاوِرْهُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ. Take mashwara. فَإِذَا عَزَمْتَ, then when you make your final decision, then you do not rely on your plans. We made an amazing 5-year plan, 10-year plan, 20-year plan to grow our business. So Heinz can take over the world. All right? It is already the biggest ketchup, right? Craft, right? So you make a 10-year, 20-year, 30-year, 50-year plan for a craft. But after you make the plan, فَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ. Don't trust in your plan, trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَإِذَا عَزَمْتَ فَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ. When you make your plan, then trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everybody knows the hadith. اعقلها وتوكل على الله. Tie your camel and then trust in Allah. So tying the camel, making the plans, earning, these are utilizing the means. Then we have to trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When we have this concept grounded really strongly and implanted firmly in our hearts, all of these challenges will become easy. So this is the general introduction to the whole concept. We have to work on this. This is the reality. This is the haqiqah. That Allah is the Raziq. May Allah Ta'ala grant us that yaqeen. And وَمِنَ الْيَقِينِ مَا تَهَوِّنُ بِهَا عَلَيْنَا مَصَائِبَ الدُّنْيَا. Oh Allah, there's a part of a longer dua. اللهم اقسم لنا من خشيتك ما تحول به بيننا وبين معاصيك. Oh Allah, grant us such fear of you that prevents us from your disobedience. اللهم إنا نسألك اللهم اقسم لنا من خشيتك ما تحول به بيننا وبين معاصيك ومن طاعتك. Grant us such obedience تبلغنا جنتك, which takes us to Jannah. And number 3, ومن اليقين, such yaqeen ما تهون به علينا مصائب الدنيا. That will make it easier for us to go through all the challenges of life. And in our discussion, the challenges of the workplace. Now, with respect to interaction of the gender, there's a specific date, if you have seen in the flyer, where the whole session is only about gender interaction. So there's much that can be said on this topic, which we will have it in its due place. But since Brother Mujahid mentioned it now, I'm just giving you a disclaimer, this is not the end of the discussion. So if there's further Q&A about this topic, we can keep it because there's a whole session till Ishraq, one of the days coming up, which is just about gender interaction. Yeah. But he did mention it, so we have to talk about that briefly, is that there are rules of conduct with the opposite gender that have been very clearly delineated by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah An-Nur and Surah Al-Ahzab. So when it comes to guarding the gaze, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah An-Nur, وَقُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ يَغُضُّوا مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِمْ. Command the believing men to lower their gaze. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in Surah Al-Ahzab about speaking as well. وَلَا تَخْضَعْنَ بِالْقَوْلِ فَيَطْمَعَ الَّذِي فِي قَلْبِهِ مَرَضٍ. This was in the Taraweeh recent. No, not a few nights ago. In 22nd juz. وَلَا تَخْضَعْنَ بِالْقَوْلِ. Do not speak in a flirtatious manner. فَيَطْمَعَ الَّذِي فِي قَلْبِهِ مَرَضٍ. Then the one whose heart there is a sickness, he will be inclined towards that, towards something haram. And khalwa, remaining in solitude with an ajnabiya woman, is also haram. So we have to make sure that we avoid khalwa. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, ثالثهما الشيطان. ثالثهما, which is very unique wording, because you have one and you have two. And then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the third of the two. If you have any group, you have a group of 5, you'll say first of the 5, second of the 5, third of the 5, fourth of the 5, fifth of the 5. Can you say the sixth of the 5? So here, Thalithuhuma, the third of the 2. Because 2 are from the Alim al-Mushahada and the 1 is from the Alim al-Ghayb. 2 you see and the 1 is the unseen. Right? So the third of the 2. 2 of the seen and there's a third unseen there. مَا يَكُونُ مِن نَجْوَى ثَلَاثَ إِلَّا هُوَ رَابِعُهُمْ. Whenever there's 3 in a meeting, the 4th one is Allah. وَلَا خَمْسَةٍ إِلَّا هُوَ السَّادِسُ. Whenever there's 5, the 6th one is Allah. وَلَا أَدْنَى مِن ذَلِكَ وَلَا أَكْثَرَ إِلَّا هُوَ مَعَهُمْ. Less or more, there's always Allah. Surah Al-Mujadala. He's not only there, he's recording the minutes of the meeting. Then not only recording it, ثُمَّ يُنَبِّهُمْ بِمَا عَمِلُوا يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. Then he will repeat everything that happened on the day of judgment. SubhanAllah. So if you remember, so khalwa with an ajnabiyya, remaining in solitude, is haram. Speaking flirtatiously, going beyond what is a professional requirement into other aspects of one's life and her life or your life, right, is prohibited. And guarding the gaze from looking at that which is prohibited And also, na'udhu billah, the lustful gaze. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam said that every part of the body, there's different form of the zina. Wa zina al-ayn an-nazar. So the zina of the eyes is to look with lust. May Allah protect us from that. This is one of the poison arrows of shaitan. And historically, back from the anthropologists who study human society and its development throughout times, there was a natural division where even like the caveman would go out and hunt and he would bring the food and the cave woman would cook it, right? This was a division. These gender roles are being completely, not blurred, but obliterated, completely destroyed now. But, so if you look at United States history as well, the woman, since we're talking about interaction of men and women in the workplace, I'm not trying to go too far from the topic. So what happened is, women were primarily in these United States, homemakers. And they were raising the generation. And they were providing that nurturing motherly care for their children. Then a big global event that took place that directly impacted this dynamic was World War II. When World War II happened, in large numbers, the workforce of young men were shipped overseas in the battlefields of Europe, in the European theater of the war, and the Asian side as well. Right? So the Allies against the Axis powers. So, and it was Germany and Italy, right? Hitler and Mussolini, they were in Europe. But it was also Japan, Imperial Emperor of Japan. So they were both sides of the war. That's why it's the World War, right? World War II. So many thousands and tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of men were shipped overseas. So there was this huge shortage of workers in the factories to supply the war machine. And the capitalistic industrial military complex, they needed workers. And they were asking the women to come and work. But the women were so relaxed, so happy, believe it or not, just a generation ago at home, they didn't want to go out and work. Why should we leave the comfort of the home? So the government of the United States of America, they had a whole program of marketing to create within the woman the desire to leave the comfort of their home. You know, is the comfort of the home or confines of the home? It changes the whole feeling. The confines of the home, confined to it, or you're comfortable in it. So anyway, then they had all these posters. They had the propaganda for the men and they had a propaganda for the women. The propaganda for the men was, be a patriotic citizen by enlisting, join the armed forces, aim high, join the Air Force, etc. Be a Marine. So this was the targhib and tashkil and the recruitment for the men. And for the women, there was a whole department of marketing for, you want to be a patriotic woman, what do you need to do? Enter the workforce. Come work in the factories. Come work in industry. Come work in all of the different forms of corporation and work. Mostly, of course, starting them off at low paying. Actually, that was part of the reason. That they realized that the women, they were more docile, they were more obedient, they were following the rules, they were not giving trouble, and they were happy with less pay. So the taskmasters and these factory owners, they said, wow, this is really good. It's way cheaper and getting better results. Better results with respect to what's the bottom line? Profits. Better profit. So the gender pay gap is something that was then created by themselves here, the Western secular people. There's no gender pay gap in Islam. There's a whole ayah that destroys the concept of gender pay gap. With the 10 sifat that are mentioned. إِنَّ الْمُسْلِمِينَ وَالْمُسْلِمَاتِ وَالْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتِ وَالْقَانِتِينَ وَالْقَانِتَاتِ وَالصَّادِقِينَ وَالصَّادِقَاتِ والصابرين والصابرات والخاشعين والخاشعات والمتصدقين والمتصدقات والصائمين والصائمات والحافظين فروجهم والحافظات وذاكرين الله كثيرا وذاكرات. 10 attributes Allah mentions. These are the different tasks and jobs. And the end, what's the pay? عَدُ اللَّهُ لَهُمْ مَغْفِرَةً وَأَجْرًا عَظِيمًا. Forgiveness and great reward for men and women. So there's no gender pay gap in Islam. They created the gender pay gap. Then what happened is, when the men started returning back from the war, they didn't want to give up these women. They said, no, we want to keep you because we're paying you less and you're working more, giving us less trouble. So this was like the people who are saying this is not Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Malik, Imam Shafi'i, or Imam Bukhari, Abu Dawud. This is people who are studying American society, historians of here. They have come up with this data and research that what happened when the women entered the workforce. It's not coincidence. There's a direct correlation that there's objective data. For example, children born out of wedlock, like zina is happening. You'll say, oh, it led to promiscuity. What's the proof of that? Okay, children born out of wedlock, it's not Maryam alayhi salam, Isa alayhi salam. Right? This is through zina, okay? So this children born out of wedlock, the chart, as the women enter the workforce, they're mingling with men. Men and women are mingling where? Workplace. Because they weren't mingling before. But now when they started mingling in workplace, what happened? Just look at the chart. It just skyrockets. As the women enter the workforce, at the same time the zina is going out of control. The divorce rate increasing, the zina increasing, premarital is increasing, extramarital is increasing, STDs are increasing, unwanted pregnancy is increasing, all of this. So it's not just, you're just being paranoid. The case studies prove that this is what happened. As recently as, in the time of Maryam alayhi salam, 2,000 years ago, she was afraid when she said, Ya Allah, how am I going to go face the people? Allah Ta'ala said, relax. قُولِي إِنِّي نَذَرْتُ لِلرَّحْمَنِ صَوْمًا فَلَنْ أُكَلِّمَ الْيَوْمَ إِنْسِيًّا. Say, I have taken a vow of silence, I cannot speak. The baby will speak. But she had that shame. You think that's 2,000 years ago? Can you believe it in America? Because we are originally from down south, Kankakee. Past that, there were areas, in the 50s and 60s, up to the sexual revolution, they call it, of the 60s. In the 40s, up to the 40s and 50s, if someone in this United States, believe it or not, became pregnant, it would be such a shame on the family that they would send them in the middle of the boonies out in like downstate, from anywhere in the northern suburbs where the population is. They would send them in the middle of the cornfields, and they would say, oh, our daughter has gone for excursion or to visit family for 2-3 months somewhere. And when they hit the second trimester onwards, when it becomes visible, they'll send them there for a couple of months. They stay there. There's a whole facility for all these women who are pregnant. Can you believe this? I'm talking about United States of America a few decades ago. And they would deliver the baby there, they would give them for adoption, they would come back. But it's a shame on the family to have a baby out of wedlock. This is the situation before the woman entered the workforce. But after that, what is happening is it's na'udhu billah, so prevalent, that people having 1, 2, 3 kids before marriage, and then after that getting married is normal, if they do want to decide to get married, right? So we should, I remember it's so common now, it's like not considered a sin at all. I remember back, na'udhu billah, the affair that happened with Bill Clinton. So one of our bichara, very simple, innocent teacher, he was saying, oh, बिचारी की जिंदगी तबाह कर दिया, उसकी शादी कैसे होगी? I said, this is the last thing you need to worry about, Musa. Right? The intern, he's talking about yeah. So he said that, he said that the zalim, for those who don't understand what I said in Urdu, he said the zalim, he destroyed, that little young intern came to work in the White House, he destroyed her future, how is she ever going to get married now? I told him, for God's sake, there's a lot of things to worry about, Maulana. Don't worry about that one. So that's not going to necessarily affect her eligibility for marriage anymore. So this is na'udhu billah, the culture we're living in. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He doesn't even say in the Quran, وَلَا تَزْنُوا, do not commit zina. Rather Allah ta'ala says, وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا zina, don't even come near unto zina. So all the things that lead to zina are made haram, and all the conditions for zina, for it to happen, are made haram. Among them being khalwa. Actually, I think I will stop this topic because I want to speak about this when you have the whole gender issue. I want to repeat all these things, where I'm not going to repeat it, it'll be incomplete there. And we have other aspects of workplace talk about. So I should stop this because I can keep on going now, talking about this. So many ayat about this, so many hadiths about this, so much data about this topic. But the one thing, and I'll conclude with this answer, and then you can move on to the next topic, is we should not take this lightly. If you think, oh, I have a strong marriage, come on, I'm never going to fall for this, right? Subhanallah. The one who considers himself to be immune from the attack of shaitan is the one who already lost the battle. We have to always be afraid. And I'm giving you this disclaimer that if Allah makes me remember it, I may be repeating some of this stuff when the gender thing comes, and you have to make sabr. And إِذَا تَكَرَّرَ تَكَرَّرَ. This is the when it's repeated, it is established. I tell the students, this is the فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ فَنَامُنَانِ. Okay, to repeat it. So I'll repeat it. Anyway, so there was a man, he wanted to go and meet a great sheikh, a great wali of Allah, and a great alim. He was a top student who graduated خريج من مدرسة رسول الله, from the Madrasa of Rasulullah. The gold medalist graduate from the Madrasa of Rasulullah of Sufa. Who is that? Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu. So he traveled so far to go visit Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu. And he came upon him and he saw him making dua. He was so desirous to benefit from him, haris, that he did something which is otherwise not appropriate. That he went very close to eavesdrop on his dua. And when he went there, Abu Hurairah is an old man at this point. And the first dua that he happens to hear him is, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min az-zina. So he got so shocked, he blew his own cover that he was eavesdropping, and he blurted out, Ya Aba Hurairah laqad sahibta Rasulallah. Oh Abu Hurairah, you are a companion of Rasulullah and you're seeking protection from this sin. So Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, his dua was broken now, so he grabbed his hand. He said, I ask you one question. Is Iblis alive or not? Anzirni ila yawm yub'athun. Grant me respite till the day of judgment. Qala innaka minal munzirin. Allah said, I will give you the respite till the day of judgment. قال فبما أغويتني لأقعدن لهم صراطك المستقيم. Oh Allah, I promise you I will misguide all of them, except for a few that will escape my grasp. إلا عبادك منهم المخلصين. So he said, if Iblis is alive, we need to seek protection. So the beginning of the problem is when you think, oh, it's not a big deal. So I'm enjoying a laugh with her, we just this, and maybe she gave me a gift, I give her a gift, whatever, this, that. It's okay, man, we're just working. And then the talk is sweet, the sight pleases the eye, pleases the ear, pleases the heart, pleases which heart? Nafs ammara bisu, not the ruh. Huh? So a person enjoying it, it's like whatever, it's just enjoyment on the way in, not a big deal. But this is a what? Slippery slope. Starts with communication, then goes to meetings, to rendezvous, to work meetings, become personal meetings, right? And then it's a very, very easy, it goes so. And the thing is, in our job as an imam, we deal with the nikahs and we also deal with the talaqs, the sad part. And there's a lot of talk that we say, oh, Allah, protect the youth, about premarital stuff. You have no idea. Just like if you're a healthy individual and you're doing your own work in IT or engineering or corporate, you think everything's fine. Go talk to the ER doctor. He'll tell you, oh my God, all these gunshot wounds are coming, all these heart attacks are coming. Because that's what he deals with. So likewise, we deal with that. Do you have any idea? Maybe we shouldn't have an idea. We remain blissfully ignorant that there are so many extramarital affairs in married Muslim families. Extramarital by definition is married couples. Both sides are married. Married woman is having an affair with married man. Where? Muslims, here, around us, like in a radius, right here. There's so much married couples having zina. It's taking place. This is such a sin. Rasulullah said, "La yazni zani hina yazni wa huwa mu'min." A person will not commit zina, and iman is with him. The iman will leave the person's heart. So I can't even stand this zina. If he dies, then he dies without iman. After committing this heinous act, then he comes back. It's just so common. So we cannot let it, we don't even want to, music will create lust, music is haram. Dancing will increase shahwat, dancing is haram. Seeing obscene things will create lust, that's haram. Being in solitude is a shart for it, condition for it, that's made haram. Intermingling will lead to it, that is made haram. So much effort is so many rules are there to make it hard for us to go towards that sin. But we are committing everything around it, and we think we are going to be safe. So, أَفَأَمِنُوا مَكْرَ اللَّهِ, the one who says I'm ma'mun, I'm safe, فَلَا يَأْمَنُ مَكْرَ اللَّهِ إِلَّا الْقَوْمُ الْخَاسِرُونَ, he's the khasir, he's the loser. So we have to be very, very careful. We have to make it known. Everyone at our work should know that this is a person who does not get involved in flirtatious behavior. He's polite. Doesn't mean you have to be rude. Doesn't mean you have to be mean. Doesn't mean you have to frown. Doesn't mean you have to be cruel or insensitive. Doesn't mean if someone needs help, you don't help them. But this helping and having mercy and kindness, it very easy can switch over to something else. Start having other types of feelings, right? So this altruistic behavior can very easily go into something else. But we have to be polite. We have to be kind. We have to show our deen. But it should be known that this person it's a waste of time to try to entrap him. When Allah Ta'ala speaks about theft, robbery, He puts the male first. As-sariqu was-sariqatu faqta'u aydihuma. The male thief and also the female thief, their hands must be cut. When Allah Ta'ala speaks about zina, Allah Ta'ala says az-zaniyatu first, was-zani, the female adulteress and the male adulterer. Why is the female mentioned first? With the exception of forcible rape, in consensual zina that takes place, it will take place in many cases by the woman as an instigator, or being okay with it and letting it happen. So this zaniya that Allah has mentioned her first before zani, the female gender is mentioned before the male. They would know that this person is not interested in this type of things, because he strictly does his business and gets out. He is not interested in the extracurricular activities. Right? So this has to become so well known in the workplace that they won't even try. And in this challenge and any other challenge that comes, again, it goes back to what? At the end of the day, we have to have yaqeen that Allah is the Raziq. Oh, what if I go for the interview and I don't shake her hand, she'll be upset. The thing is, there's a Sahih Hadith in Al-Bukhari, Asahul Kutubi Ba'da Kitabillah, most authentic book after the book of Allah. Ma massat yadu Rasulillah sallallahu alaihi wasallam yada imra'atin qattu. The hand of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam never touched the hand of any woman, ever. Now the thing is, unfortunately, the message that is being sent to the people from the leadership, Muslim leadership, is confusing. Just like Mir Mujahid Bhai is a dear friend, he's sitting next to me, and he would never say something like this. Well, in one Islamic conference, I was on a panel with a very well-known, national-known celebrity scholar. So actually what he said, the following statement was public because this happened in a MSA conference. So I could take his name, but I don't need to publicly take his name. It could be any number of them, because many are saying these things. So there was this was at a university MSA conference. So there was one of the persons in the crowd, he asked this question. He said that, I'm in the medical profession, and when it comes to examining the patient, for that matter, it's totally permissible to that which is needed. Because al-darurat tubihul mahdurat, the necessity makes that impermissible permissible. But he said that, is it okay that after I do finish the exam, if I shake the hands of my female patients? He only asked about shaking hands. He didn't ask about anything beyond that. So now, this is a gap here, right? We were sitting on a table, like literally elbow to elbow with the other speaker. I'm sitting there in the panel, and my respected colleague, he said, Subhanallah, I also work in the medical field, and I believe in the healing power of touch. So he said, my personal practice is, you're asking about shaking hands, I hug my female patients. Okay. So I hug my female patients. You should hug them. Bichara Sahil, the questioner, only asked about handshake. So the thing is Now, the thing is, we're sitting there, right? So we have the examples of our akabir, our mashayikh. And going back to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, going back to Musa alayhi salam, he took a promise, I'm not going to object, I'm to Khidr. But then he objected. Why did he object? Why did he break his promise? He didn't know you're not supposed to break a promise. He knew, but he had a commitment to Allah. What is a commitment? That if something is wrong is happening, you must speak up. In fact, what is the definition of sunnah? Aqwalu Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his statements, af'aluhu, his actions, and taqariruhu, those things that are silently he approved and affirmed by not objecting. If anything happens in the presence of a Nabi of Allah, and the fact that he does not condemn it, the absence of the condemnation, absence of objection, proves it's sunnah by default. Just because he did not object. It's an approval. And as the waratha of the Anbiya, our mashayikh, they taught us, we're not a waris Nabi, but our mashayikh were, as inheritors, as al-ulama'u, warasatul anbiya. The ulama are the inheritors of the prophets. Just by remaining silent, it's uncomfortable. You'll say, oh, we have uncomfortable moments in our workplace. You're in the masjid of Dar es Salaam. What uncomfortable environment you have? We have a lot of uncomfortable challenges. This is one such challenge. Because this is a very, very famous celebrity scholar with thousands of, in the past, a sheikh would have murids. Now you have followers. What type of followers? Facebook followers and all the social media followers and likes on YouTube and subscribers to the channel and all that. So I was thinking, oh my God, what do I say? So I was right there. Now if I don't say anything, they'll say, oh, Mufti Minhaj proved it too because he didn't say anything. So then, even though the question was posed to him and he responded, I could have said, hey, he didn't ask me. So you have what? 2-3 seconds to think about it before the next question comes and then it's too late. So then I said, okay, from respected colleague, I would like to just add one note to that. So there was a wireless mic like this one. So then I just took it, I said, my colleague spoke about the healing power of touch. SubhanAllah, amazing concept. If there is a healing power in touch, then I want to ask you, the crowd. You don't just tell them the answer, you take them on the journey so they reach the conclusion. I said, whose touch do you think could have the most healing power? Is there anyone? Yeah, because we already gave the answer before we started, right? But yeah, in this scenario today. But I said, whose touch could potentially have the most healing power? So everyone's thinking this one. Isa alayhi salam had such healing power that the dead become alive, right? وَأُبْرِئُ الْأَكْمَهَ وَالْأَبْرَصَ and then وَأَحْيِي الْمَوْتَى بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ. He touches the أُبْرِئُ الْأَكْمَهَ, the blind, the one who's born blind. Abras who has skin pigment disease, and the leper, and أُحْيِي الْمَوْتَى, the dead becomes alive. This Dr. Sheikh, if he touches the dead person, will become alive. And Habibullah Muhammadul Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam's maqam is what? Higher than Isa alayhi salam. So I said that who has the most healing touch? Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In Sahih al-Bukhari, the hadith, Ma mustat yadu Rasulillah yada imra'atin qattu. The hand of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam never touched any woman's hand. So where does our hand come into the picture? What do you think? I'll leave that up to you to decide, right? So afterwards in the speaker's lounge, they had a speaker's lounge. It wasn't Ramadan, so people were eating throughout the day, right? So then he came and said, oh, I thought he was going to be upset. He said, oh, that was appreciate that. I have to give him credit that he was kind. So the thing is, we have to remain firm on the deen. You know who ends up destroying and confusing people? Ourselves, the ummah. This is an example from the leadership. We had, for example, in St. Louis, we had an interfaith partnership, 31 faiths. Actually, I ended up making it 32 faiths because the Qadianis, they wanted to join under Islam. So they said, La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, we're Muslims too. They want to join the interfaith partnership. So then I had to go to the chairman and everything, and I said that, look, don't you have the Christians separate from Jews? Why aren't the Christians going under Jews? The Jews believe in Abraham up to Moses. The Christians, you guys believe in Jesus after Moses. right? So you're different from the Jews. And then why are we different from you? We believe in Jesus and Moses and Old Testament and New Testament. We believe in the Old Testament, New Testament, but we believe in the final testament. You don't believe in that. That's why we're separate. Or if, like for example, Church of Latter-day Saints, LDS, Mormons. Why are they a separate religion and part of the 31? Aren't they Christian too? But they believe in a prophet afterwards from Salt Lake City. Right. So they believe in the Mormons. They have a separate prophet. So then there's another. So they're absolutely welcome. Welcome where? In an interfaith, not intra-faith, interfaith. Right. So I said they're welcome, but they can make 31 into 32. They can't because they believe in Muhammad. No, but don't they believe in Muhammad? Yeah, they believe in Muhammad, but they believe in Mr. Ghulam Ahmad Qadiani, right? Afterwards. False prophet. So then, when I gave the example of, then they understood, they said, yeah, they're welcome, but not under banner of Islam. From the Ahmadiyya movement. Anyway, so every year, the people there was Beth Rodriguez. She was the executive director. So I was interacting, like you're talking about interacting with females. I never thought about all these females I interacted with until you asked me the question. So we had a very perfect. They know I don't shake hands. They know the rabbis. They don't just lower the gaze. What do you know the Orthodox rabbis do? 90 degrees. Imagine. I don't want to say imagine you're a woman, but if there was another woman here, if it was a rabbi, he would be like this. He would not even face. He goes like this. So, then they said every year one of the faiths would invite the guest speaker for the annual dinner. So it was the Muslims' turn. So Imam Hasish, right? He invited the Grand Mufti of Bosnia. Yeah. So in the main dinner, it was in the Hilton Frontenac Hotel, right? Just Hilton Frontenac. So then over there, what happened? I did the opening invocation, which is the dua. So then after the dua opening invocation, this Beth came and he gave a speech. After he gave a speech, then they were going to present him an award. So she knows because she's been dealing with me that we don't shake hands, right? So when she got the award, on the stage, and there's a huge banquet hall with round tables and all the dignitaries and everyone from the cardinal of the Catholic Church to the chief rabbis to all these Hindu pundits to everybody's there. And then 32 faiths. Then Allah Akbar, Ajib. So she takes the award to present it, and she's very careful to not by mistake touch him, to give it on the stage when. So what is it? In front of, I think there was about 800 attendees, 1,000 attendees. He puts the award on one side, he hugs her and he kisses her on both sides of the cheek. Now, when I say kissing, I don't want to say more than, not like lips on cheek, but the cheek to the cheek where you kiss in the air, like that. Yeah. So she was like what kind of deen is this Mufti Minhajuddin talking about? And then now the chief Grand Mufti is doing this, kissing me in front of everyone. Because I had been teaching her the whole thing about this is how Muslims interact. So, kaun kaam kharab karte hain? Like who destroys it? We are the one destroying it ourselves. So there's no consistency in our own practice. Okay, I can go on with the topic, keep the stories, right? So go on.
So I was just going to, there's not a whole lot to add, but just a few practical tips that, keeping that background in mind. So number one, what Mufti Sahib said was consistency, right? Setting expectation and be consistent is important right from the get-go. If you're getting in the new job or setting the environment, within the environment, setting that expectation. Setting the expectation is important and be consistent in it. So because, one time you're hugging and doing everything, next time you start, then the word spreads. So that's, the third one is be a confident Muslim. And that comes with the yaqeen that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who's providing, and trust in your abilities, with the fadl of Allah, that you become the best worker. That is the key thing. When you're good at what you do, people respect. I know a lot of doctors, every trade person who's good at what they do, they're unapologetic, and two, they demand respect.
Absolutely. So when he went like this, It reminded me on YouTube, you can look it up. It was a news item, global news item on BBC. I just saw it on BBC. My classmate used to sit next to me. And we were classmates for 7 years. Sufyan Iqbal. Now, so like 20 years ago, no, 22 years ago, he graduated. So he was an Imam in London. He is an Imam in London. This news article came where now it's what, King Charles and the Prince William and the princess, his wife. They came in a tour to his masjid, Islamic center. So there's the video of it where the prince, he used to be all these years Prince Charles, now he's King Charles, right? So Prince, now he's the prince now, the William. So he shakes his hand. Well, and then the princess, she comes, she shakes the hand of all the board members, they're all, mashallah, shaking hands with the princess. But when they come to the Imam, she stretches her hand like this, the Princess of Wales. And my classmate, I was so proud of him, and it was on our class group. Somebody put the link. So that, look, he's rejecting the princess. So he just went like this. This became a news item. And all of the media, who are they attacking? And who are they making fun of? The princess, not him. They said how ignorant she is. She didn't read the briefing. She didn't get studied. Who is she going to say salam to? This is an Imam of Masjid. This is a Muslim. All the attacks are against the princess, not against the Imam. They're saying that the Imam, he bowed his head with respect. He put his hand over his heart. But he not touched her because what kind of a princess is this? Why doesn't she know where she's going? She should have done her proper investigation and background information. And her staff should have educated her if she didn't know. Yeah. So the thing is, it's up to us, to be confident, as you said, and to be consistent. And then you will demand respect. And you got to be good at what you're doing too. Because Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, Inna Allah kataba alaykum al-ihsana fi kulli shay. Allah wants you to have perfection in everything you do. Now, he could have said, like in architecture, you should be perfect. In calligraphy, and you should be perfect. In beautiful things. But you know what example he gave? The ultimate dirtiest things. The bloodiest things. He gave 2 examples. You have to have perfection in that. And you have to have perfection in these bloody things. Then other things are by default. What example he gave? إن الله كتب عليكم الإحسان في كل شيء حتى إذا ذبحتم فأحسنوا الذبحة وإذا قتلتم فأحسنوا القتلة. Such that even when you have to make dhabah, do a dhabah with ihsan, and when you have to even kill a person because he's a murderer and he's being executed, the executioner has to execute him, then that should be done with ihsan too. Now, that's a whole different chapter, how the ihsan is in that. But the point is, in work, we have to be good at our work, and then, inshallah, we will demand respect. Everyone will respect you. Go ahead. You have a question?
So, what did you have to explain a bit about, not shaking hands with women and being confident and whatnot? But over the past few years, we've seen that there are like D&I initiatives that workplaces, they want to be accommodating, they want to be inclusive. So a person can know that, okay, this is what the fiqh is saying, but then maybe 10 years ago, it's like, okay, I might get a backlash from work. For the past 2-3 years, with the help of all these initiatives, they want to be accommodating to they want to be inclusive. So maybe you can share some of the initiatives that workplaces are taking and kind of showing people that it's not just that you have to be confident in the deen, but the workplace is one.
Events, parties and all that. So, what you answered for first applies for the second.
Yeah.
But the third one is what is...
Diversity and inclusion is a big part of, you can speak more on that. So we should take advantage of that. It's all about, before it may have been, okay, there's only one particular lifestyle that is being pushed down and promoted. But now, diversity with respect to color, with respect to language, with respect to orientation, with respect to sexual preference, with respect to what's your personal preferred pronoun, to all the things, everything is subjective, everyone has their own individual reality. There's no absolute truth. Truth is relative. All of these concepts from philosophy and postmodernism. So there are some benefits of that for us, where anyone comes dressed like whatever color hair, whatever color this, everything is okay. Whatever is okay for you, whatever you feel comfortable with. So we can take advantage of that and say, this is our religion, this is our deen. This is an opportunity for us to express our deen. Go ahead. You can speak more about what his question.
So there was a question, right? It says, in today's diverse work environment, what advice would you give to Muslim employees for respectfully interacting with and supporting, I wouldn't say supporting, interacting with LGBTQ plus colleagues, and while adhering to our beliefs and values.
Yeah, while adhering to our, see, basically with this thing is that we should approach them. I mean, if we are approached by this, we don't have to necessarily go out and pick fights, start arguing with people. If there are certain conditions for when nahi anil munkar becomes wajib. Nahi anil munkar meaning forbidding the wrong. One of the conditions is that you have a strong, reasonable belief that they will accept what you're saying. You also have a strong, reasonable belief that it will not create a big fitna. Then you do nahi anil munkar. Like your child, particularly subordinates, your child, your employee, someone who reports to you, you see them doing wrong. Your friend, your colleague, your roommate, you stop them from something wrong, for sure. If it's not going to make any dent anywhere, then you don't have to go out of your way to start attacking them, because you do your own work. The question is that if you are asked to actively support it. Now, if it's Pride Month, and you have your cubicle, do you want to put up the rainbow colors? Beautiful qudrat of Allah has been hijacked by these people, right? So, like, there was his teachers group. There was a picture. There was one. It was raining. One little young student. He had a rainbow umbrella. They're like, "Oh, should we ban this?" Bichara, he doesn't know, right? So the rainbow is a beautiful thing, but it has been hijacked by these people. So you putting up a rainbow poster, supporting actively that lifestyle. That's something that is a no-go. We cannot do that. And if we are, they're being interrogated why you don't support it, then you should say that. Look, even from a secular perspective, one of the fundamental arkan or principles of secularism is, as I mentioned before, is everyone is allowed to have their own reality of the whole existence, right? You believe in a God, you can. If you don't want to believe in a God, it's fine. Whatever you want to believe is fine. It's so relative, everything is so relative that whatever your anatomy is, it doesn't make a difference. Whatever your physiology, it doesn't make a difference. You can assign whatever gender you want, right? So, you can say that if you have your legal right to exercise this type of lifestyle, then you have your legal right to do what you have. Likewise, I have a right too. And my right is that I have the right in this land because there's a Bill of Rights in the Constitution. We, the people of the United States of America, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, right? And ensure the blessings of liberty for ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution of the United States of America. So in the Constitution, there's in the preamble, after that, the Bill of Rights. Now in the Bill of Rights, it's the freedom of religion. So we have the freedom to what? Practice a religion. So I retain the right to believe that this is an immoral lifestyle. But I'm not forcing it down your throat. Yeah. You do whatever you want, but just like I'm not going to interfere in your LGBT alphabet lifestyle, right? I'm going to not interfere, do whatever you have to do. But you cannot impose that upon me that I must necessarily support this. So then you can say, for example, I believe Allah is my God, and Muhammad is my prophet, and Quran is the heavenly revealed book. Do you believe that? No. So am I going to automatically say you're an Islamophobe, you're a bigot, have hatred for Muslims? No. You say, I'm not an Islamophobe, I just don't believe that. I don't hate Muslims. So likewise, if I don't believe in that lifestyle, I believe it's an immoral lifestyle, why do you think I'm a homophobe? Homophobia is the one who is hating. I'm not going to ever kill a homosexual, na'udhu billah, attack a homosexual physically or verbally. I'm never going to insult anyone. This is a homosexual individual. You're not supposed to insult him. The Quran says that, what is the worst crime? What's worse than homosexuality? Shirk. Forget about the mushrik, the one that they're worshipping, the idol. The idol that they're worshipping besides Allah. Could there be a bigger crime? Allah Ta'ala says, وَلَا تَسُبُّ الَّذِينَ يَدْعُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ. Do not curse the false gods that they have ascribed besides me. Why? فَيْسُبُّ اللَّهَ عَدْوًا بِغَيْرِ عِلْمٍ. In response, they will curse Allah, and you will be the indirect means of that. So if you're not supposed to curse the false gods, why are you supposed to curse the homosexual guy? So if you're not going to curse you, but this is, in my religion, I have the right to believe this immoral, and branding me as a homophobe is a crime. Your homosexuality may or not be a crime, but calling me a homophobe is a crime. Because I'm not a homophobe. I just don't believe personally that's a moral lifestyle. Right? It's just like me calling you an Islamophobe. So, and then we just be firm on that.
So what Maulana Farhan was asking the question about the DEI and all the initiative in the last 4 or 5 years. So I give you an example. So 7, 8 years ago, so within the workplace, so I had a person part of my team. I had a person who was part of my team that changed gender, and from men to women, and I had a very hard time realizing. I kept saying he, because it was just so natural. So it just did not. I was approached by HR, so I said, hey, it is sensitive. They take it personally. So I've been asked to really reflect on it. However, a few years later, then told this DEI initiative started, and to be honest, when I look at it, I think that's the best thing happened for Muslims, because now the diversity, the inclusion part of it made it easier for us as a Muslim to establish the identity and practice it, without any issues. Seriously, I mean, yesterday I was telling Maulana Farhan, it's like, for the first time in my 22 years career, I gave a full town hall presentation on Ramadan. Explaining what Ramadan is and what to expect from the Muslims within Ramadan and what it is. So prior to that, I mean, I worked 22 years, nobody even asked. It's like, I had to make a lot of excuses, call in sick and all of that because you stayed up all night. But now I don't. I send an email saying that it is Ramadan, so they know hours-wise, they know how, timing-wise, they're fully understandable. So all I'm going to say is, alhamdulillah. I mean, the moment started, but there's a benefit for us as a Muslim as well. Yeah.
Subhanallah, subhanallah. Takbir.
Allahu Akbar.
And this is the most fundamental thing, why we are so shy about that. Is this something wrong we are doing?
Subhanallah.
Love.
This is probably, I think, one of the core issues why Muslims are not accepted. Because they are so shy. I mean, you don't have to go out of the way, but I keep on telling my colleague, I said that this is what our Prophet predicted 1400 years ago. And he was like, oh, really? I didn't know that. So, I mean, there are always ways and means you can introduce a religion in a positive way. But we as Muslims have failed.
MashaAllah, that's the heartfelt emotion there. 100% on point, exactly. That's why I said the first point is believe Allah is Razik, but he added another element to it as well. Just being alhamdulillah, thankful. When you use the word proud to be a Muslim, meaning thankful that Allah granted us the blessing of Islam. That's why the dua that Maulana Farhan after Fajr, what did he recite? It's not just Allah is my Rabb, Islam is my deen, Muhammad is my Nabi. What is it? Raditu billahi Rabba. Raditu bil Islami deena. Raditu. Meaning I'm pleased and proud and happy to declare that Allah is my Rabb, Muhammad is my Nabi, and Quran is the book of Allah. Islam is my deen. So we have to be, so it goes back to lack of confidence because of lack of yaqeen. And that's coming off in all these different ways. Na'udhu billah.
Lots of times, people are very receptive. Give you an example. I was working from the hospital. And being part of the leadership team, we used to have the administrator of the hospital and then some of the doctors. We used to have lunch together. So, I always use my hand. I always use my hand. So one of the doctors said, you give your hand? Yeah, it's he actually started cleaning with his fingers. And then one day, whenever I have miswak in my pocket, he said, "What is that thing?" I said, "This one, miswak. That's the front, good front." And he's very natural, he kind of that toothpaste, all that thing. He said, "Give me one." So actually, I ended up giving miswak to all of them, and they started using that actually. So, that's
Zamana bada shauq se sun raha tha, hum hi so gaye dastan kehte kehte.
Allahu Akbar.
Right, that's the thing. Zamana bada shauq se sun raha tha. Everyone at the time, people are listening attentively to the deen. Hum hi so gaye dastan kehte kehte. We stopped narrating the story of deen.
So I'm going to just do a rapid fire Mufti Sahib here. So one of the other common issues of the workplace, well, pre-COVID, I'm sure there's a little bit here who is going back, it's a water cooler talk. Water cooler talk and the gossips and all of that. So sometimes you're just kind of forced into the situation and people are testing you out, whether you support. So how do you handle that?
Yeah, so gossip is such a thing that, subhanAllah, again, it's an opportunity for us to shine, to show our integrity, our character, the character of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ghibat and backbiting is such a sin that is among those sins that it's not only a sin to commit it, but it's also a sin to be in a gathering where it is happening and remain silent. And this is one really easiest way of gaining ultimate respect. That, for example, one of our teachers, Hafidhahullah, Mufti Muhammad Ali Babali, forget about in the dunya, in corporate, even in deen, in madaris, there's all these, sometimes there's politics, rivalries, this and that, different issues between admin, teachers, students, whatever. Like he was known that in his entire life, every single teacher, every single student, everyone from the admin, everyone from the public would say, this is one man that his entire life, zindagi mein kabhi ghibat nahi kiya. Sabka ittifaq. Everybody said this person, he never backbited anyone in his entire life. Nor does he tolerate any backbiting. No matter whatever the drama may be happening, whatever politics may be happening and brewing in the background, he will never say anything bad about anyone behind their back. And he's just known for it till today. When you ask the question, that's the first person comes in my mind, because frankly, there are very few like that. How many people can we say and swear that this person never backbited in his whole life? Very few. So, if we control that, inshallah, we will gain respect of our colleagues, we will gain respect of the admin. Side benefit of that is that we will advance in your work too. Everyone will know that this person is a person of upright character.
Yeah, and that's...
you mentioned keyword is rapid fire, he said. You see how in such a kind manner he's giving ishara. Yes,
subhanAllah. So the other question was misconception and stereotypes. So, I mean, I think this is rather mentioned. It's like there's always this misunderstanding. I never knew Muslims, they all classify Muslim into one category. So how do we bring this to attention within the workforce and to clear some of these misconceptions? Stereotyping.
Stereotyping, yeah. So the thing is, actions speak louder than words. And there was a poll done, a survey, that about people who have misconceptions about Islam. And the results of the study showed that the people who had the most favorable opinions about Islam or had the least negative feelings about Islam are those who had at least one interaction with a Muslim. And those who had no interaction with Muslims, they're just watching Fair and Balanced News, right? Or, all of these, maybe they're hearing about Islam from evangelicals or from these pundits on TV. So they were having a negative image. But whoever interacted with Muslims, they all had positive feelings about Islam. So with true practicing Muslims. So through our amal, when, subtly, sometimes even explicitly, we can talk about our deen. And any opportunity. But you have to be careful. Ud'u ila sabila rabbika bil hikmah, with wisdom. And this should become an impetus for us, encouragement for us, that let us learn our deen ourselves. Let us learn about the seerah of Rasulullah ourselves. Let's go back and review it, so that we can find examples from the seerah of Rasulullah to convey to people.
Yeah. All right. So the other question was, in regards to Jummah, during the work hours, Friday, then you have Jummah, then the regular prayers, and you have meetings. Like, how do we handle that within the work environment in terms of prayer timings and Friday in particular?
Yeah, so we do not be shy. We mention these things right up front.
Yeah.
I talked about the ayah of Jummah in the beginning.
Yeah.
Right? Wazarul Bear. When it comes to wudu, when it comes to istinja, I remember like years ago in the early 90s when you went to Dewsbury Marcus, like 92, and Jamaat, and we were a student, there was one, the ulama, talaba of ilm, of the madrasa, they would do the khidmah and serve the food. So there was one very tall white American, do you remember? 92, long time ago. There was this tall British, Caucasian white, Anglo-Saxon, tall white, mashallah, original British man who was wearing a turban and he was serving, and he was a madrasa student becoming an alim. So my father, he stopped him and asked him that, I don't know if you remember, this is a long time ago, if you may remember or not. Yeah, you remember, yes. He asked him, Beta, what's the first question? Like, how did you accept Islam? What is the story? So he said he was in a university. Can you believe this? Look at this. This is an ajib story. It's not from some amazing theological debate, or he saw like Ahmad Didat debating, Jerry Falwell or something. No. It's because he said, my roommate, we had 2 bedrooms and we had a joint toilet, bathroom. So in the bathroom, he had what? The flower pot, watering can. Lota. So he said, I said, no, but your flower, he's saying flower, right? So he said that we don't have any plants in the bathroom, so what is that? Artificial plant bhi nahi hai na, natural hai kuch bhi nahi hai. So if we don't have artificial nor natural, we don't have no plants here, we can't afford all that stuff, right? It's just a bathroom, it's not a restroom. To rest in entertainment room with the, TV and everything. So what's this for? So then he said that, no, we actually use this for purification. Purification of what? After you use the bathroom, then we purify ourselves. So and this actually was in the time of Bilal and Sahaba, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they were mocking him. And they said, oh, your Nabi, he teaches you everything, he even teaches you istinja. They made fun of istinja. Who did? The mushrikeen of Makkah. And Bilal said, yes, I defend Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He teaches us everything. Even how to excrete ourselves and clean ourselves, he teaches us that. So he said that lota, that thing which the pot for water that we use to purify ourselves, then he got so amazed by that. And then he started saying, oh, what else? And then he started learning that. That became the first point. From there, he started learning about the seerah, and learning about the Prophet ﷺ, learning about the deen, and that teaches purity to the extent that he became Muslim. Not only became Muslim, he became an alim of the deen. I mean, so we used to, when we would be coming from Kankakee to CPSA, we had a driver who had a shuttle service to take people from Kankakee to the O'Hare Airport. So we used to take a ride with him, Tom Jacobson. So I remember one time, somehow the top of his istinja came up and we said that we have to clean ourselves with the water. So it's a religious instruction. As students, I was in 9th grade, I told him. So then he said that, oh wow, so you have to use some holy water. So this is a very deep thing to think about it. When I said it's a religious obligation to clean ourselves, immediately he thought it was what? Holy water. Because in the concept of Christianity, if something is religious, it's a few rituals. The religion will not extend to mundane worldly things. But for us, alhamdulillah, we say Islam is what? Complete way of life. So we're used to it. Oh, when you're eating, oh, this is sunnah of eating, this is sunnah of sleeping, sunnah. Do you think the other faiths have anything remotely like that? So as soon as I said it's a religious obligation, okay, like baptism is a religious obligation, there's a water element there too, right? There's few rituals. That's your whole deen, right? So if istinja is a religious obligation, it must be some type of holy water. There's no holy water, you can use any water. Oh, really? Any water, wash yourself, that's deen too? Yeah, because deen teaches us everything. So when it comes to istinja, when it comes to wudu, the whole foot in the toilet, oh, not for toilet, foot in the sink. Foot in the sink issue, we're so shy about that. Now Allah Ta'ala has given us, if you don't want to wear the khuffain, the leather socks, then we have the seal skins. It used to be. Now we have the wudu gear, wudu socks. You can buy it in the bookstore downstairs, right? So then, and when it comes to performing salah, so alhamdulillah, we should not be afraid of anyone. We are worship. This is Allah Ta'ala, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, جُعِلَ لِيَ الْأَرْضُ مَسْجِدًا وَطَهُورًا. This whole earth, Allah has made it a place for the Muslim to pray salah. Whereas in the previous Allah Ta'ala says, وَجَعَلُوا بُيُوتَكُمْ قِبْلَةً وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ. They had to perform their ibadah, Banu Israel, Musa alayhi salam's time, in only specific houses of worship, in a ma'bad, place of ibadah. But for this ummah, the whole earth we can pray. So if you're worshipping Allah, the creator of the earth, on His earth, why do you have to be afraid? Anyway, go ahead.
Actually, Mufti Sahib answered all of the rapid fire questions already. So there was a question about from prayer to the lota one. So, in corporate, it's very hard to walk in. So I can tell you that people look at me when I'm walking with glass bottles and all of that, and now they expect, they know that he takes water bottle inside. So Mufti Sahib, answers, and then I have some.
Actually, even in Japan, for example, there were non-Muslims, predominantly non-Muslim, very few minority, super minority Muslims in Tokyo, right? But what they really use water for istinja. The Oriental toilets, right? They're best toilets, right? Better than Kohler.
Yeah.
So what happens? More expensive at least, right? They have all the bidets, fancy bidets.
Yeah.
And so it is only here. Now people work in the medical field, they tell us that when the patients change their clothes and go into the hospital clothing, those who are the nurses and everything, what did they see? Everyone's pants, what's filled with? Filled with the najasa. All the people in your board meeting, don't think about this too much. Everyone who's sitting there, sabke saath kya chipka hua hai, right? So they're all filled with najasa, because when when they're putting the clothes aside, the people who work there, they told me, what's up, like maybe the RN doesn't see the LPN or whatever, the lower, they work in the hospital. So they say when they see the clothes of the patients, this is not someone who was like some chronic diarrhea or something, like normal person too, the clothes have najasa. I mean, think about it. How much najasa can you remove with paper, right? So water, anzalna minas samaa'i ma'an tahura. Allah has sent the water for purification. And Allah Ta'ala says about the people of Quba, Inna Allah yuhibbu at-tawabina wa yuhibbul mutatahhirin. Allah loves those who make tawbah, Allah loves those who make tahara, because the people of Quba used a lot of water to purify themselves. So we do not have this filth with us. They're carrying the filth. We have enough filth inside our bodies, they have filth outside the bodies too. So Alhamdulillah alladhi hadana al-Islam wa kafa biha ni'ma. Allah has thanked that He guided us to Islam, and such a beautiful ni'mah it is.
Yeah, the last question was on the socks, which Mufti Sahib addressed. Now 3 years ago we never had wudu socks. It was leather socks, or you have to, wash the normal way. But there was always, a shyness of going there, washing your feet. Don't wash your feet. But in today's world, a lot of this corporate, as part of the DEI initiatives, they have wudu place. Like I used to work at McDonald's. There is actually a full-fledged wudu facility in there. Like, back in the United States, everywhere now they accommodate for this one. You go out as a Muslim workforce and they make this arrangement for it. But alhamdulillah, we have wudu gear socks, which is available downstairs. But,
Subhanallah. There was a meeting, negotiating meeting for the terms of the treaty with Armenian nobles in the Khilafat of Osman radiallahu anhu. So there was a high-level delegation, and there was a meal before the discussion. So the nobles and the king and his court were on one side, and the Sahaba were on the other side. They were eating, and Tabi'een too. So this is a later Khilafat period of Osman bin Affan. So Hudhayfa ibn al-Yaman, Sahibu Siri Rasulillah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, secret bearer of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was eating too. One morsel of food. Oh, he's gone. Okay, the one he's eating with his hands. It was one morsel of food. It dropped from his hand. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Idha saqatat luqmatu ahadikum." When any one of your morsel falls from his hand, فَلْيُمِتْ عَنْهَا الْأَذَى. He should remove anything harmful that may have contaminated it. فَلْيَأْكُلْهَا. Then he should eat it. فَإِنَّهُ لَا يَدْرِي فِي أَيِّ طَعَامِهِ الْبَرَكَةِ. For you do not know in which morsel the barakah is. It could have been in that morsel, you discarded it. So he picked it up from the table to clean it and eat it. So the one who was next to him, he perhaps was a tabi'i, not a sahabi, he elbowed him. He's like, if you're going to look like we're faqirs here, never saw food, why are you going after the morsel that fell down, right? So just leave it. Like he meant all of that in his nudge. And he was trying to be what? As discreet as possible, because he thought it would give a bad impression to the Armenian nobles, Armenian Azerbaijan, in that region. So that was the worst thing he could have done, because maybe people wouldn't have noticed that he ate it, but you know what happened? He said very loudly, أَأَتْرُكُ سُنَّةَ حَبِيبِي لِهَؤُلَاءِ الْحُمَقَاءِ. Do you want me to abandon the sunnah of my Habib for the sake of these fools? Right. So the thing is, this is that spirit of ishq of Rasulullah, ishq of the deen that we're lacking. So may Allah Ta'ala give us that iman. Yes. No, yeah. In the cases when there's multiple Jummahs, you can pray the second one as well. That's fine. Ideally, there's supposed to be one Jummah, but because of lack of ability to accommodate everyone, therefore we have two. Like in the era of COVID, we had 3 with social distancing, and then we made it back to 2, even though we have enough students here who can lead and imams, because the objective of Jummah is to even be 1 ideally, because everyone should be gathered. But then we only do 2 because of space limitations. But 3 was a luxury, and it was more convenient, but we said no, we'll go back to 2 because the need is fulfilled with 2. Yeah.
Now the problem, what happens is that you are trying to practice and they want to mingle with them just to go with the crowd, you know. So now the question is that it's a dilemma, is that I'm the last person to say that I'm a better Muslim, because I always believe in the day of the judgment. Nobody knows how good or how bad he is till the day of the judgment. Now, if you want to practice, then you have to negate your fellow Muslims. And if you're not practicing, then you go with the crowd. It's very enticing.
Yeah.
Navigate this.
The non-Muslims, yeah, that's exactly. It's like me and the Grand Mufti. So it's the same thing. So there's no consistency. Yeah, exactly.
No, so the thing is that
That's the problem. I understand the problem.
that is one interaction, then you came back to
No. I mean, I'm just saying continuous interaction. Yeah.
you are back to your base, you are surrounded, you are very well protected. But the problem is that this person has to go in there at that workplace day in and day out. That's my question is not, I'm just asking how to navigate that individual in that environment.
Repeat the question.
I'll repeat the question.
That's all.
Yeah, so he's saying that what happens when you have practicing and otherwise non-practicing Muslims in a workplace, and you're trying to practice, and then the non-Muslims that they get confused. They say, "What are you doing?" versus they're not doing. So if you're trying to go for Jummah, and then the other Muslims who are in your team are not praying Jummah, how do you? So when before Jummah even became farad on me, I used to go to public school. I remember in like 5th grade, 6th grade. So my mother would come and pick me up from the school. I'm talking about this particular incident that happened. I was in 6th grade, right? So in that time, I would come from the public school to Jummah. So I would go to the principal's office. They would know, and I would wait. So then what happened is one day, my mother was not there, and she left a message that, I'm not going to pick up my son to bring him to Jummah today because she had to go somewhere else or she wasn't available. So then I went to the principal's office to wait for my ride. They said, your mom said she can't come today. So then they were very parishon. They were so worried. They said, what is God going to say? How are you going to answer God? And you're going to be in trouble with God, right? So because they said it's so serious for you, you have to pray, isn't it? So should we arrange a ride, or what can we do, right? So the more serious we take it, they take it. And if you're not taking it seriously, they don't. Now in this case, I think again it goes into education of our non-Muslim colleagues. We'll say, look, just like any other religion, there are different levels of people who adhere to it. We have to have this frank conversation. There are people who are upholding the principles of the religion, and there are people who are observant, and there are people who are less observant. And you mentioned you want to remain humble, right? So you can remain humble and say, I'm trying my best. You can say, I'm not judging anybody, but these are obligations that I'm trying my best to uphold they maybe have a more liberal perspective and they do not consider it necessary, but this is actually what is in my religion. Because this is where the inclusion, diversity plays a role. Even within the adherents or those who claim to adhere to a faith, there may be accommodation for the different levels of adherence. You can say, I'm at this level where I consider this an obligation and I must. Perhaps they don't. You can ask them why or why not they do. Or you don't have a right to ask them actually. They don't want to, so they don't. But I do. And you cannot say that since they're not praying, you can't pray. No. This is what I regard. And then we from the masjid also, we send so many letters for students and to be able to wear hijab, to be exempted from swimming class, to be exempted from dance class, to be exempted from fulah and this and that, to get a break to go for Jummah. All the time we issue letters from the office here at Dar es Salaam to all the students and people working around. And all those letters are upheld. They respect that. Yeah, no showers in the gym, yeah, and school, gym period. All of these things.
So if I have a meeting at a time when it's Jamaat time, like for Zohar, not Jamaat, but Zohar, so is that, would that be considered an uzr to pray at home, or should I try to?
Yeah, Salat with Jama'ah is not farad. So Zohar, if you end up missing, the question was about Zohar and clashing with the meeting. If you could pray it with a few people at work and make it one Jama'ah, that's better. If not, even individually. But Jummah, there's no exemption. Yeah. Inshallah. Any other? That's it. Right? That's about it. Is Ishraq time? No. Sunrise 6:13. Yes, way past. Okay. Alhamdulillah. So may Allah Ta'ala make it easy for all of us. May Allah Ta'ala give us himmah. May Allah Ta'ala make it easy for us to remain strong and firm. Yaqeen, and inshallah get through all of these challenges and make it an opportunity for us to demonstrate the deen. Like the Sahaba, they used to just say, Kunu mislana, become like us. People were naturally attracted. All of the amal of the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the sunnahs have its nur. So if you bring the sunnah to your life, inshallah, that this nur will illuminate and dispel the darkness around us. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Inshallah, the brothers in Itikaf had a long night of ibadah, can rest, and so we have to get up for Jumu'ah as well after performing our Ishraq, inshallah. Jazakullahu Khairun.